With me to talk about it is the president's former chief strategist and often host of this show, Stephen K. Bannon. Steve, how are you, sir? Good morning.
I'm doing good. I think the president just came out with another tweet, too. I think the second one, putting Pelosi, Schumer, liberal puppet Jones into office in Alabama would hurt.
I could read that one, too, if you like. Putting Pelosi, Schumer...
You got a better read. Read it to the audience.
Ready to go. Putting Pelosi, Schumer, liberal puppet Jones into office in Alabama would hurt our great Republican agenda of low on taxes, tough on crime, strong on military and borders, and so much more. Look at your 401k since election. Highest stock market ever. Jobs are roaring back. I think he nailed it.
I think he totally nailed it. It's just that's the Trump agenda. And I think the mainstream media, the fake news, they'd rather talk about well, I think the drop in the stock market on Friday, given the fake news of ABC, I think ABC's got a lot to answer for. I mean, if Breitbart had done that, they would have been all about,
we'd be out of business. We'd be out of business.
Breitbart's got to be shut down. We'd have 9,000 derivative shareholder suits. I would just say, if these shareholders go get some class action lawyers, you never know what could happen to ABC News. But it was really inappropriate. But I think President Trump, as we said before, and I've said for a long time, his Twitter account disintermediates the mainstream media. It goes over the heads of the people. And I don't think there's a better, more succinct summary of what the Trump agenda is and why putting the Pelosi, Schumer, liberal puppet Jones, that's a good handle.
Very good.
Liberal puppet Jones. I think it's almost as good as little Bobby Corker or Crooked Hillary, etc. So I think this thing could stick. I think.
And one thing that is so clear in this tweet that he understands, the president understands, that this is a proxy war. This is not simply about Roy Moore, who I know, Steve, you and I were both Mo Brooks guys in the primary or in the first primary. We're not here to say that Roy Moore is going to be the greatest senator of all time. We're here to talk about the values and the agenda and the fact that the left is in a constant effort to delegitimize Trump. An AEI scholar said on the Sunday shows that the rumors in Washington, they're talking about Trump being crazy and on drugs. You've been talking about the 25th Amendment for a long time. Those Morning Joe went on a huge tear last week, basically calling for the cabinet to impeach the president or to get the president temporarily removed from office. It is the efforts to delegitimize this president, to relitigate and to nullify the 2016 election are palpable. And if you want to put all of that at risk because of a he said, she said with Roy Moore, I just don't see it, Steve, if you're on the right.
It's part of the nullification project, and I think that's why you see President Trump coming in now, understanding what the importance of Roy Moore, particularly against somebody like Jones, who's a very radical, whether it's on life issues, whether it's on gun issues, whether it's on the border. I mean, here's a guy that didn't even have the guts and the courage to come up on the Kate Steinle situation. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I think the difference down in Alabama for the people of Alabama is pretty clear. But now you're seeing the rearguard action of the Washington, Republican elites are already whining that there's no good solution for these guys, right? They've already admitted, I think, defeat in this thing.
Yes.
You saw Mitch.
I did.
Is it Mitch McConnell or Addison McConnell? I think his new name is Addison. You saw Addison on Sunday. Basically say, let the people of Alabama, choose. And that's what I think we've been saying for a long time. Folks in Alabama are smart enough. They can weigh and measure what they got down there, and they come to a conclusion. I think this thing's in the hands of the folks in Alabama.
Right. And so this is another key point that Mitch McConnell said on ABC News this week with George Stephanopoulos, that we're going to let the people of Alabama decide, which is hardly a rebuke of Judge Moore. I think he's cried uncle on this one, Steve.
I think he has. I think he's seeing the reality of the folks in Alabama, and particularly conservatives and Republicans support Judge Moore. And so why do you go out of your way to work with, particularly when Judge Moore, I think, is being outspun 10-1. I mean, the Democrats have nationalized this election.
That's right.
To pour money in on TV ads, get out the vote, et cetera. So Judge Moore, once again, cut off by the entire Republican Party, cut off by Mitch McConnell. And, Mitch McConnell made a decision to get the RNC out there, that made a decision to get the Senate Leadership Fund out there. He's got no help from the Senate. So this is on Mitch McConnell. He's got to do more than just let the people of Alabama decide. or if anything happens untowards down there, it's on Mitch McConnell's shoulders. And I think that's Mitch always wants the easy way out. Like yesterday on I think it was on the show he was on, they asked him about, do you believe the accusers? Because you see what they're doing right now with President Trump. You see it on Saturday Night Live, et cetera. They're trying to bring this Billy Bush thing back up, right? And
that's right.
Billy Bush, triggered all the women accusers. And by the way, the American people saw the evidence there. They weighed and measured it and judged, and that's why Hillary Clinton is sitting out there, having a cup of tea with Bill Clinton and not on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The people weighed and measured this and decided that they had seen what was out there and made President Trump president of the United States. And now they're going to try to relitigate this. It's quite obvious, what they're doing. And Mitch McConnell had an opportunity to kind of make amends for what he didn't do in the campaign, which is to take a strong stand against it, and they didn't. Once again, and this is one of my problems with Mitch McConnell. They shepherded this kind of tax bill through there, which is really not tax reform. It's really more of a tax cut.
Right.
He shepherds it through there, and he thinks he needs all credit to get all out of all the sins he's had against President Trump and the grassroots populist nationalist conservative movement. And the answer is no. I mean, he still doesn't have, he's still allowing these senators to trash President Trump. He really hasn't had President Trump's back on anything. As Lindsey Graham said the other day I think it was picked up on ABC, that, that meant the senators have to get this tax bill passed, or the Bannon wing of the Republican Party, the grassroots populist wing, will have every right to throw us out. I mean, every accomplishment Mitch McConnell's had is because this great audience and the people that go to Breitbart and other conservative sites and other grassroots sites have put tremendous pressure on them. And they know that they didn't, they had to start working more days a week. They had to start working longer hours. They started having to have more hearings. They had to get focused on getting the tax bill done. And now they're still trying to slip in some DACA stuff. They're trying to play their games, right? But it's constant pressure from the grassroots movement, from the grassroots conservatives, the hobbits with their pitchforks and torches are the outside the castle are the guys that are making these guys do anything. So don't think they're there to help you. They're not. They're there to basically respond to the donors and respond to their global corporatist clients. But when the deplorables get focused, they can put the wood to them and make these guys get the job done.
Well, the good thing is the deplorables are clearly controlling the agenda, because whatever this White House puts forward that goes against the deplorables, it doesn't end up becoming law. The only thing that ends up happening is when the deplorables are in sync or in lockstep. That's a good thing. But Steve, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of other key issues, one of them being taxes. So I think your points are clear. I'm just very concerned with the messaging. I think the White House is very poor at this, aside from the president from time to time, and I think Congress is even worse. They didn't sell a tax bill that anyone understands. It looks like it's mostly a corporate tax cut. It doesn't affect some of the wealthier Americans that much in some of the blue states, because you can't offset your state taxes. So it's not good for rich people in blue states, which is probably not a bad thing at all. But it's not much of an individual tax cut. All the Ivanka Trump stuff about the child tax credits, that she was out there on every show talking about it, that didn't really turn out to be as robust as people would have thought. So it's sort of what we were sold and what's in the bill, I do think, is quite different. And that doesn't make it a bad bill. I think the president needs this for momentum, but I don't think there's a lot of clarity on what's in it.
Listen, I think this is what, I spoke in Scotland, met people in London, conservative leaders in London on Thursday, and then spoke in Scotland at an event on Friday, and got asked this question. I think you have to go back in time. Paul Ryan had this border adjustable tax, which had a kind of reconstruction of corporate finance over the last 50 or 60 years that I was and I thought was much more of an economic nationalist populist bill and construct. But at the time, it was quite evident it really hasn't been put out there into the think tank community, into Wall Street. People don't really understand it. It looked at the time like it was too many unknowns and too big a risk. And so that kind of went by the wayside. That's what they had really been working on for 4 or 5 years. I mean, this was really the driver of what tax reform is going to be. I think what you have here, and look, I'm no expert, but coming out of Wall Street, the way I look at this is that this is a tax cut. It's really another Reagan-type tax cut on marginal tax rates, and it was really to try to make American corporations competitive as far as tax rates go. And it's a pretty big marginal tax cut. And the theory is that this is going to create additional jobs. Now, if you look at what we've done just on economic nationalism, which nobody wants to talk about, President Trump right now has delivered 3.3% growth. They would mock and laugh President Trump when he was saying this as a candidate. No, the Obama years are 1.5 to 1.9%. This is not a continuation of the Obama policies. This is President Trump's jawboning. This is why the animal spirits are up in the United States. And what I mean by that, the driving motive force of capitalism, people having confidence, people wanting to invest, companies are investing from overseas because they understand the days of the United States being a patsy, whether it's on NAFTA, whether it's on the Chorus deal with Korea, whether it's with Japan, even with China. Those days are over. We're going to start having meaningful trade deals that protect American workers and American jobs. And so you see unemployment overall, 17-year low. I think black unemployment is a 16 or 17-year low. Hispanics like a 15-year low. You're seeing wages start to come up, start to increase in places like agriculture and construction, particularly among black and Hispanic working class people. And so I think you're seeing economic nationalism. Now, to put out to go a little further, the Fed put out their fourth quarter projection. The New York Fed put out their fourth quarter projection for their region, which is one of the most important regions of the world economics in the United States. It's 3.9%. In fact, since they've been doing this forecasting, it's the highest number they've ever projected. 3.9%. That's almost 4% before this tax cut. Now, look, is this tax cut perfect? The answer is no.
No.
Is it really fundamental tax reform like I think people are looking for and can happen after the 18 elections, which I still think there's another bite of the apple there. I think Paul Ryan's border adjustable tax ought to get a full vetting at that time. What this is to make American corporations more competitive. It's also to repatriate this trillions of dollars of cash that are back there. Would I like more focus on making that money go into plant and equipment to create manufacturing jobs? Absolutely. Is there enough restrictions on that? I don't think so. And I think some of this will definitely be used for stock buybacks and for dividends, which have not been, particularly for people, economic nationalists that want plant and equipment built. It's not a favorite, but I don't think it won't do any harm, certainly. So I think that if this bill gets in as an accelerant, to augment President Trump's already basic policies that are clearly working. And now I think you're going to go from not just low unemployment. I think we're going to start talking about good paying jobs and wages increasing. And so I think that this thing will get through. I think there'll be some changes to it. Look, I was a big advocate of a significant tax increase up to 42 or 44% for people making over $5 million a year. My thinking being that if Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and Hollywood is so gung ho on the progressive portfolio of ideas that are pushed by the left all the time, they ought to start paying for it instead of getting a free ride. And so I know that with Grover Norquist and some of the guys on the right, they had vapor lock. But look, I think this thing will get done. I don't believe it'll get done at a conference until close to Christmas Eve. There's a lot of wood to chop on this bill. A lot of people are going to get their hands in it still as it goes to conference. And one thing I would say to the audience, continue to watch what happens to small entrepreneurs and to the pastor. To me, it's very important that this bill focus on small entrepreneurs. They're the really creators of jobs out there. And so we'll see over the next couple of weeks. I think people will stay engaged, and we'll be getting John Carney at Breitbart's doing an incredible job of keeping people updated on this. So this is going to be one that's going to go down to the wire.
Now, Steve, I'd love to keep you after the break if you can. So I don't know how packed you are, but and I want to talk immigration with you when we return. I want to talk. I've got one other surprise for you that I think you're going to get a chuckle at. I don't know if I'll get any commentary on, but we've got some Ty Cobb news coming out this morning. The president's lawyer, and one of Steve's favorite characters. That's a behind-the-scenes tidbit at Breitbart. But let me give you this to mull on, listeners. If the economy was growing at the rate that we're talking about, 3 going on 4%, and President Obama was president, we'd be talking about Barack Obama being one of the top 5 presidents in the history of the United States. Instead, now, since it's President Trump, we're talking about if he's crazy and should be removed by the 25th Amendment. So chew on that. We'll be right back. This is Breitbart News. Welcome back to the show. Phone lines are full, but we've got our special guests on the line, Stephen K. Bannon, Executive Chairman of Breitbart News and former Chief Strategist to the President of the United States. Now, Steve, I told you we had some Ty Cobb.
Hold on. Hang on. Because you do such a good job. Our beloved President, Donald J. Trump, is, and by the way, as you know, Breitbart News Daily and Breitbart News, the website, keeps up to speed with all the breaking news about President Trump. You got to read this latest tweet. He's, as we say in the White House on the campaign, he's on the trigger today. He's on the trigger. You can see this latest one on a must-watch legal scholar, Alan Dershowitz.
Yes, a must-watch legal scholar, Alan Dershowitz, was just on Fox and Friends talking of what is going on with respect to the greatest witch hunt in capitals in U.S. political history. Enjoy! Exclamation point. What do you think he's talking about here, Steve?
We know Joel Pollack is a former student, our editor of Breitbart, California,
right?
And with Klukowski, one of the top legal guys at the site. They know. And listen, you made a great point that I think goes out to all the deplorables as you go into work today. Just remember one thing. Look at this economy. Look what he's done with ISIS. Look how he's handling this crisis in the Gulf. Look how he's handling this thing with the situation with China. I mean, if Barack Obama had gone to Riyadh and given that speech to the Muslim nations and then destroyed the physical caliphate of ISIS, they would give him a second Nobel Prize, which Donald Trump did, and they just dismissed him. And this economy, this is pure Trump economics. President Trump thought this through. He knew what he was doing. He says, "Hey, I want to get tough on trade. I want to get tough on illegal immigration. I want to show the nations of the world that if they want, they got to start investing in the United States. They got to start building plant and equipment here. We got to start making stuff here, and then I'm gonna have a massive tax cut to make sure that corporations are competitive globally." And you see what's happening. And I think, and you made the point, if Barack Obama had done this and the anemic growth he had, if he had done this, they would have given him a Nobel Prize in economics. Not just in peace.
Wow, what a great point.
Every day you hear this drumbeat from the nullification project, and that's what it is, folks. It's the nullification project. And here's who they're trying to nullify. They're not trying to nullify President Trump or Donald J. Trump. They're trying to nullify you. You put him in office. Yes. You've had his back through thick and thin. And by the way, there's been both thick and there's been thin, okay? And you've had his back the entire time. And they hate that. And they want to take your voice away, and they want to try to destroy President Trump. It's one of the reasons I admire, President Trump. But by the way, Corey and Bossie have this new book out. You have to get Let Trump Be Trump. And in the book, they jumped him yesterday on Meet the Press. Now, President Trump's not the easiest guy to work for on some days. But the guys that work for him, the men and women that work for him, just love the guy and know that as a man, he's a leader and showed tremendous courage. And this nullification project that the mainstream media, the establishment, the Democratic left, the progressive community, and the Republican establishment are all out there to shut down your voice. But just look at the guy's actions and look at the results of the actions.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on the economy. And I want to be clear here. Obama had some big quarters. Steve, he had a couple that were close to 5% growth, but they were always offset by some bad quarters, like with negative growth. And he never had a year where an annual GDP growth was over 3%. So we're going to keep an eye on this. But considering that the president's agenda it's all about speculation. It's all futures trading at this point. Let's see what happens when this gets through, because people are so jacked up about what the president can do. Let's see what happens when he gets to do it. Now, Steve, we only got 2 minutes left, and I'll let you choose from these. Ty Cobb has doubled down. Trump's lawyer says that Robert Mueller, the investigation will be over by January. He made a fool of himself saying that it was going to be over by Thanksgiving. How's that going? You can comment or not.
Okay. I'm, as a guy that's worked with President Trump, I'm a big believer in give him a date and stick to the date. As you know, at Breitbart, I don't like guys that give.
That's right. One of your tricks.
You give me a date. Hit the date, brother. You got to hit the date.
You don't force them to commit to the date, but once they commit, yeah, right. Okay. And so next up, any thoughts on immigration? Kate Steinle, sanctuary cities. Have you had a chance to reflect on it?
The two things I think people focus on.
The DACA trade. Yeah.
They're going to try to do some funny business with DACA. We got to get focused on that. Also, John Solomon on the Hill, one of the top investigative reporters out there, I think is breaking a huge story about a whistleblower on Uranium One that has really never vetted by the Justice Department. I think this whistleblower and what Solomon's working on at the Hill is some of the best breaking news out there. Pay attention. We'll be linking to it at Breitbart all day. The guys at the Hill are killing it on this investigation on Uranium One. This thing stinks to high heaven, and people ought to get all over it.
That's Steve Bannon. And yes, by the way, with that story is the DOJ has failed to interview an FBI informant before it filed charges in the Russian nuclear bribery case. Yeah, essential reporting by John Solomon at The Hill. Now, those of you who are Steve fans and who isn't, Steve has some news that'll be breaking today. So now Steve's just going to get a million texts all day from reporters. But stay tuned. There's some Steve news to come later in the day that you guys are going to be very excited to hear about. Sorry, Steve. I know it's going to be you're going to have to fend off all those texts. But thanks for the time, sir, per usual.
Okay, brother.
All right. Talk to you guys. Talk to you later, sir.